Welcome to The Explainer. Sometimes a huge discovery seems to come out of nowhere, but today we're digging into a story that proves that's rarely the case. We're talking about a massive gold find in Canada's north and how one family's hard work, spanning decades, led to one of the most exciting exploration stories we've seen in a long, long time.
All right, so let's get right into it. This whole thing really kicked off with a single drill result. One hole in the ground that put a brand new company, Snowline Gold, squarely on the map. And believe me, this was the kind of result that makes an entire industry, well, it makes them stop what they're doing and pay very close attention.
And here it is. This quote from the CEO, Scott Berdahl, really says everything you need to know. Just try to picture this for a second. Drilling right from the surface, the very top of the ground, and hitting a continuous stretch of high-grade gold for more than half a kilometer. In the exploration world, that is not just a good result. No way. That's the kind of legendary find that companies are built on. So that one incredible drill hole? Yeah, that was just the start. It kicked off this frenzy of activity that quickly defined what they now call the Valley Deposit. And the first resource estimate? A massive 7 million ounces of gold. Now, just to put that into perspective for you, finding a 1-million-ounce deposit is a huge win for a company. It's a company maker. Finding 7 million, and this fast, that is almost unheard of.
Okay, so this has to make you wonder, right? How does a discovery this big, this significant, just stay hidden for so long, in a place people weren't even really looking? Well, to get that answer, we've got to rewind the clock a bit. Because this overnight success was anything but.
See, the real story here, the one that matters, it doesn't start with a company or some stock ticker on a screen. Nope. It starts with a family and their deep, multi-generational connection to the vast Yukon wilderness. And this right here, this is the heart of it all. We're talking about the Berdahl family. The CEO, Scott Berdahl, didn't just go to business school and decide to start a gold company. He literally grew up in this world, learning how to prospect from his dad, Ron. For more than 30 years, their family just patiently, methodically explored this one specific region, the Selwyn Basin. They laid the entire foundation for what would eventually become Snowline Gold. And this timeline just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows you the long game they were playing. This wasn't a one-off lucky shot. We're talking decades of boots-on-the-ground work, of gathering data, of building a geological theory piece by piece. It was the absolute culmination of 30 years of patient, systematic effort. And the person leading this charge, the architect of it all, is a CEO with a really unique background. Scott Berdahl isn't just the prospector's son who knows the land. He's also a professional geologist with degrees from MIT and COST, plus an MBA from INSEAD. Think about that combination. It's that super rare blend of deep, in-the-field knowledge combined with elite academic and business training that really made all of this possible. All right, so now you've got the backstory, the 30-year journey. Let's dig into the geology itself. What is it exactly that makes this valley deposit so special in the super competitive world of gold mining?
It really all boils down to this one phrase: an extraordinarily favorable mining scenario. See, the value isn't just about how much gold there is. It's about how and where that gold is sitting, the location, the characteristics of the rock. It all adds up to a massive economic advantage right from day one.
Okay, first up, let's talk about grade. Now, in mining, grade is just the concentration of gold in the rock. The easiest way to think about it is like the number of chocolate chips in a cookie. And for a giant cookie like this deposit, the number of chips, the grade at Valley, is just remarkably high. And to get specific, they're looking at a potential starter pit right at the surface with an average grade of 2.35 grams of gold for every single ton of rock. For an open pit mine, where you're basically just digging a big hole from the surface, that is an exceptional number. Why? Because your costs are way, way lower than if you had to tunnel deep underground. All right, so that's part one, but part two is just as important. Having high-grade gold is fantastic, but only if you can actually get it out of the rock without it costing a fortune. And guess what? This is another area where the Valley Deposit just totally shines. So they did these things called metallurgical tests. It's a fancy word, but it's basically just an experiment to see how easily you can separate the gold from the waste rock. And the results were, well, they were fantastic. Using standard, off-the-shelf methods, nothing crazy or experimental, they could get back as much as 96% of the gold.
This is a dream scenario for a miner. The gold is not only there in big amounts, it's also cheap and easy to pull out. That's a huge deal for a future mine's profitability. And this chart really just drives the point home. Look at that. The grade in that starter pit area at Valley is more than double the global average for these kinds of mines. That's not just a little better. That is a total game changer for the potential economics of this project.
So you have an amazing discovery. That's one thing. But turning that discovery into a real viable business, that's a whole other challenge. And it requires a very clear, very methodical strategy.
And that is exactly what Snowline did. They systematically went about de-risking the project. Now, that's just industry speak for proving to the market that this is the real deal. So first, they proved the metallurgy works, which we just talked about. The next big step, they needed a major partner to come in and validate their find.
And that led to this, a massive stamp of approval. Snowline got a strategic investment from B2 Gold, which is a highly respected, major global gold producer. Look, this isn't just some random investor. This is an industry expert putting their own money and, just as importantly, their reputation on the line. And they didn't just invest once. They came in and then quickly doubled their stake. That sent a huge signal of confidence to the entire market.
And that confidence from the experts was then echoed by the wider market. Snowline went out to raise money and ended up closing a massive financing round, bringing in an incredible $102 million. And get this, it was oversubscribed. That means more investors wanted in than they could even take. That kind of capital fully funds their ambitious plans for years to come. They are set.
So where does this story go from here? I mean, this is the really exciting part. The potential here is so much bigger than just one very, very rich deposit. The real question now is, what else is out there? And this number is the key to that question. Snowline controls a land package of 3,600 square kilometers. It's hard to even picture how big that is. It's an enormous, mostly unexplored area, and the same kind of geology that created the Valley deposit, it exists all over their property. Valley could seriously just be the tip of the iceberg. And as they start to explore this huge land package, the company is also making a point to define what a modern resource company can and should look like. They're building a foundation of respect for the land and for the people who have been there for generations. And this quote from the CEO, Scott Berdahl, it really captures their whole philosophy. From the very beginning, Snowline has put environmental stewardship and, crucially, deep partnerships with First Nations communities like the Nyack-Dun First Nation right at the core of their identity and how they operate. And so that leaves us with this final, really exciting question. With dozens of similar geological targets scattered across their massive property, is the Valley discovery just the first of many? Could this be the beginning of a whole new world-class gold district? Snowline Gold's incredible story, one born from a single family's 30-year conviction, it really feels like it may have only just begun.